All right. Yeah, we are live. Welcome back to another video. In this one, I have here with me Dozzin Donuts over on Twitter. Let me actually pull up his Twitter handle here. He is the marketing and communications guy at Fuzion App, the man behind the code, which is pretty cool. And we're going to be talking about Fuzion App. Go give this a follow as well. But I think this is kind of evolving with Rujira, so we'll see kind of where this goes. But Dozzin, just really quickly, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Where did you get the donuts?
Dozen donuts. A dozen donuts. It's no deeper than that, really.
Okay, cool. That's cool. I was like, what a random set of like a dozen donuts with the PFP and then like a bear, like a 9 to 5 bear. Interesting combo.
The bear's a werewolf. Like when everything started going the Rujira way, and everyone was talking about the Norse mythology and Fenrir and all of that, I thought like I should have a wolf, and then I thought not just a wolf, like a human wolf, a werewolf, and I was like, werewolves are scary. So I asked Grok about to make me a animated, like slightly confused looking but friendly werewolf, and this is what I got.
Okay. Yeah, I get, now that you mention it, werewolf makes sense. Maybe this is just like the non-wilderness in me that thought this was a bear, but yeah, go give him a follow for sure. So yeah, let's get into this. So Fuzion App, I personally had never heard of it before, just because I hadn't really been following the Kujira ecosystem before this whole Rujira thing kind of got created. So what is it?
Wow. Okay. Well, we can go right back to the beginning if you want to, like all the way back. How does that sound?
Sure.
So we originally launched as a launchpad on Terra. We wanted to build a launchpad that really wasn't gatekeeping who got to launch, and made one that basically allowed the holders of the token to vote on whether a project got to launch on the launchpad or not. Did a bunch of launches there, and then the Terra collapse happened, and we kind of retreated and licked our wounds and tried to figure out what to do next. And we're pretty tight with the Kujira guys, and when we heard that they were going to be launching their own chain, we thought that would be a pretty good option for us. So we relaunched on Kujira, rebranded into Fuzion, and along the way, we were thinking about what we wanted to do differently from the first time around, what we'd learned that worked and didn't work, and we realized while we were trying to figure all that out that there were a couple other things that we wanted to build as well, and one of them you saw was Plasma. We built an OTC platform that allows pretty much anyone to swap anything for anything else. And after that, we built Pilot in conjunction with the Kujira team. That was a collaborative effort between the two of us. And then we realized that while Pilot's a really fun and cool way to take a token to TGE, there's a lot of other needs in terms of raising and points along the way. And I think we'll talk a lot more about this, but there's a lot of points along the way of creating a protocol where you need capital. So we built the Ignition product, which was a kind of first come, first serve mechanic, which is different from the Pilot one. We can get into the differences later. And then we built a bonds product, which allows a protocol that's already launched and kind of has a following and needs to kind of recapitalize for expansion or whatever you need your extra capital for down the line. And that essentially is like a bonded product where you can sell to your community, but they get so the launcher would get the funds immediately. The community would get like bonded tokens. So they actually maintain liquidity until the maturation of the bond. Then we built what else? Then we built Dustbuster, which, if you're familiar with how staked Kuji earned rewards, it was always in like the native token of whatever the transaction was. So people had like a ton of dust. So Dust Buster allowed you to, it was basically like a multi-step swap that allowed you to, take like 10 or 15 different tokens and swap them all into one token in one transaction. And then we automated that. So it would then do that like weekly or monthly or whatever you wanted. So you could like just say, okay, I want to get, all of my rewards in USDC or something. So we did that, and it worked with Bo, and it worked with I've forgotten the names already, but you could actually swap in and out of like X tokens as well. So the stuff that people were lending on Ghost. And then we, just before everything kind of went south, we'd released options, which was essentially like a P2P options thing. Because everyone keeps talking about like they make these massive, like super confident price predictions. And we're like, well, if you're that confident on it, you can put your money where your mouth is and.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had all that going, and then like everything kind of blew up, and in the aftermath, when the consolidation of the different kind of tokens in the Kujiraverse was happening, we got approached to get involved from the launch side. And we said, okay, cool, but we want to kind of consolidate our launching products into a single thing, really, which became the venture vertical. And we put it to a governance proposal for our holders, and they overwhelmingly supported that. And that's where we are now. We're building out the launch platform for not just the launch platform, but I guess the capital raising platform for the Rujiraverse.
So this is like on Rujira.network, which this just launched, I think, yesterday for us to be able to click around on it. So this would be you guys in here. This ventures early access to promising protocols and opportunities. Is this essentially is this a launch? This is the launch pad?
It's going to be the launch pad, but we're talking about ventures because Launchpad kind of like it really narrows the field, right? Like when you literally think of like tokens that are launching and that's it. And that's part of it for sure. But what we came to realize was these teams that are building products, and there were so many there were so many teams building cool stuff. It's not just about the launch, right? Like when the focus is purely on that, then teams are under this enormous pressure, often guys who haven't done this before, to get it right straight off the bat. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's like, cool, you've got it. You've got one shot at this, and can I swear? No.
Yeah, I mean you can. Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
If you F it up.
Got one. Yeah, you've got one shot at this, and if you fuck it up,
yeah,
like so be it. You've got to kind of like live with it as you go. And we realized that there's so much more to it, right? Like you can launch a product, you can build an MVP, you can start building a community, and you can go, okay, cool, we need a tiny bit of capital to get us to the next point. And so you can go and you can treat your community, your early adopters, as essentially as angel investors, and you can give them a nice like opportunity to just kind of raise enough to get you to the next level. And then you can build something out that has some backing behind it, that has like an MVP, like you can test product market fit. And when you're ready, you can then kind of do the pilot sale, which is like the TGE, right? Like the actual, your token goes into the public domain. And yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay, cool. And then now you're live, your product's out there, your token's out there, you're doing stuff, you're building and innovating and delivering, and you want to grow. Well, you've got this treasury that you can't just dump it, because that's not how that works. But you also can't capitalize it, but you have a community. So you can go to your community and go, we need to raise, I don't know, 100 grand or 200 grand or whatever, because we want to build this next phase into our project. And your community who supports you, who wants to use your product and wants to see you like build the next cool thing for them to use, can go, cool, well, we'll fund that through a bond. So there's this evolution, I think, of capital raising in crypto that's going to be this step change where teams are going to have to understand that they have the opportunity to raise continuously, and there's a lot more that goes into that, right? Because if you're going to take that approach, you can't just go that you can't do the trust me bro thing where it's like,
Right.
this is going to be huge, like throw money at it because it's just going to 100x, and then you don't deliver and everyone gets bummed, and like it's all hype and
I do. So it's kind of like, so there would have to be some sort of disclosures. So when I'm thinking of this, so my immediate thought always goes to accredited investors with that kind of thing. Is this kind of, because I obviously don't like those. I think that's a lot of the reason why some people don't like TradeFi or some of the TradFi stuff. You have to already be rich to sort of get into those very, very, very early support for projects type of thing. Is that kind of, are they still selling like some equity? Is there any fear of regulations, or like how does that whole side of this look?
Well, we've taken the approach that, like, if we build a decentralized product and someone comes along and uses it, if they're going to use it in a way where it needs that sort of like that level of commitment, whether it's a SAFT or like KYC or whatever, they're able to do that. Like you can use a whitelist, you can decide who you want to sell to, and I guess it comes down to what your token does in the project as well. But I think the focus for us is like, how do we make it so that you don't need to try and kind of get it all done like at the front end of it. You can actually kind of go, okay, cool. Well, I mean, if we're gonna release a token and we want to and it plays a part in the protocol, and we want to do it in a stable and responsible manner, then let's provide the tools for that to happen.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know that I've seen a lot of projects do that too, where it goes, I've seen it go both ways, where they have an awesome product that's working and you wish it had a token and it doesn't. And then they kind of maybe launch it later, either to, I don't know, take profits in that kind of way, or they just want to have a revenue share token. I think it's largely to raise money and that sort of thing. But so this is before they have a token, you're able to invest in a project and the community is actually able to do that. I think that's pretty cool.
Well, you would need the token to sell the token, but what you can do is, like, you can set, if you're doing something like the first come first serve style sale, which is kind of like that angel round kind of thing. What you're doing there is you're saying, okay, like, we're at a very early stage. The token is not going to be accessible to the buyer until a much later state, because we have to get past TGE before you get it, right? Otherwise your token's in circulation. So you're taking the largest risk, but you're also hopefully going to gain the largest reward.
Right.
And then once you've kind of got past that stage where you're now maybe a known entity, you've showcased what you're building, people are interested, you've got a roadmap to like a really useful product, then you've kind of reached the point where you can actually do a TGE or a pilot sale that leads to a TGE, because we've built it so that all of that kind of happens step after step after step, which we can talk about later. You kind of can't just throw out like the TGE sale unless you've got something that people are interested in. Like, you can talk a big game, but ultimately people are going to be discerning. They're going to have questions, and this way you can start much smaller. You can probably give up a much smaller percentage of your supply, and then it's on you to actually deliver, to show people that you are serious and not just kind of fucking around.
Right. Are those early raises going to be I mean, maybe this is a dumb question. I don't know, but I know if I'm doing token research on some things, they do the private sales and none of the information is disclosed, like of the token amount and how much is raised sometimes. Is that going to be more transparent here? Is there a benefit of that? Or is some of that still going to be, you know, kind of kept private? Or is that like it's a project thing?
I think it'll be a project by project thing, but I think like our intention with the first come first serve style sale, that earlier one that I was talking about, the intention there will be that it'll be transparent. You'll be able to see the token price. So the way we're gonna build that out is you'll be able to set like a sale period, like a start and end date, and you'll be able to set a min and max buy if you want to prevent someone from coming in and just taking like the lion's share. You'll have the option to do a whitelist, which will then be like very specific, because then you might want to only reward people that whether it's like your greater community or literally a list of like 10 VCs or something.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be able to set when those tokens are accessible to those buyers. So you need to have your ducks in a row. You need to have a plan where you're like, okay, cool. If this sale happens on this date, then if the tokens are going to be available in 3 months, we've got 3 months to get our shit together, get ready to do the pilot sale so that the TD happens before those tokens come out. And where you go from there, you can't kind of like half-ass it.
Yeah. I mean, so are there a lot of projects that you're talking with already that might be launching? Or is this, I guess my question, when I think of Rujira, I suppose I hadn't really thought until I was talking to, Auto Rujira and Nami about their tokens. No, I know your token, the Fuzion, is getting merged just straight into Rujira, right? So
Yep.
you guys aren't going to have a token anymore. So how does this venture sort of make money for the greater, I suppose, Rujira ecosystem?
Venture will charge a commission on the raises, and that commission will go towards the revenue for, or the split between, what is it? It's between Ruji stakers and then the other half that goes to I guess the Rune stakers. So that's how our contribution will work. We'll take a commission on sales revenue.
Cool. Okay. And are you guys talking a bunch of like what kind of interest is there, I suppose, so far?
At the moment, we're focused fully on developing. There were, I think, when last year, July, was it June or July? I think we had like 4 sales lined up, and Auto Rujira was the last pilot sale, and then the guys who launched the Boon token did an FCFS sale after that. But I think like we need to get it fully functioning and working, and I think then we'll see stuff trickle in, and then hopefully snowball from there.
Yeah, I'm totally guilty of that, where I start getting too far ahead of where things are at. I know they still got to get built, but as a non-dev, technical person, I'm like, can it be like tomorrow? Like, what's taking so long sometimes? Which is stupid. And obviously that's not, but I just mean, I'm already looking at I saw a demo earlier today. Pragmatic Monkey and JP did a demo, sort of like a simulation with the Sonar wallet and then some of the working things in what Rujira is going to look like. And it just got me super excited. So I'm like looking, I just, I wish it would happen like now, but yeah, I get it. So just building it out now.
I feel the same. And I'm the non-dev in our team, and I frequently kind of, roll down that road and have to get reined in. Like, no, we have to actually build this stuff. It doesn't just like trickle out of your brain and then suddenly manifest. But I think there's going to be some cool stuff, because I think the fact that Rujira, because Venture's now like an integral part of the Rujira app layer, and there's all these like moving parts that work together so nicely, it's going to be a pretty smooth experience, because what you're going to be able to do is basically go and create a sale. You'll be able to create your token as part of that sale. So your token supply, your name, all that kind of stuff. Set up your vesting. So who's going to receive what? Set up how many tokens are going to go into the sale and the price for them. And we can get into the pilot mechanism because that's quite a cool thing. Then your sale will start and end. And if you've done a good job of getting people interested, you'll sell out. And at the end of the sale, the tokens get distributed to the people who've bought them in the bid, and you get your money. The fees go to Rujira stakers or Ruji stakers. Liquidity will get seeded, and then the pair will start trading on Fin. So it's all literally like a process.
Okay.
And that's kind of like what I was saying about, it's not just about a launch pad where you're launching a token. It's about so much more than that, because a token is so much more than just the launch. Like it doesn't just, the job doesn't end when the tokens launch, right? Like it starts.
Right.
So we've made all these parts like fit together so that it feels like as easy as possible for builders, because I mean, like, who wants to worry about this stuff when you've got something important to build?
Right. Makes sense. So Cartel, just speaking of pilot, one of the things I was thinking of was Cartel. Do you guys have a hand sort of in vetting the projects that might be launching?
No. So I think that was one of the things that, like, in our original iteration, it was about a project would come along, and like I said, the token stakers would vote on whether a project got to launch or not. And we've done like 180 on that, where we've said, okay, well, if it's truly decentralized, then anyone should be able to come along and create a sale. And if they haven't done a good enough job of convincing people that they are a valid project that deserves to exist, then people just won't buy. So like if we start sitting at that point where we're going like, okay, well, we're going to set up like a vetting process, then it becomes, we stop being a platform and start becoming a gatekeeper, which, it like, and that's fine. That's not like a necessarily a bad thing. A lot of other launch pads do that, but we felt like all we were doing is then making our job deciding who does and doesn't get to launch, instead of creating something that gives builders an opportunity to connect with capital that wants to support them.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Cartel thing happened and people didn't like it, but I just personally am on the side of let the stuff launch, and if people want to gamble and they end up getting rugged, then that's unfortunate, but you shouldn't babysit what launches just to try to protect somebody that wants to do whatever they want to do with their money.
Yeah. And look, we're constantly, like, our team is constantly going back and forth on, like, if we do this in a certain way, what are the implications? What are the good and bad implications? So one of the things, for example, that we did on pilots that we'll be doing in the venture vertical is when you set up your tokenomics, you have to allocate a portion of the raise to liquidity. And so right now, like, for example, if it's like a 10% minimum, you can go higher if you want, but at least 10% of your raise is going to go into liquidity. And the creator, the token creator, will still own that liquidity, but it will stream to them over like a defined period. So at the very least, there's a guaranteed amount of liquidity for a defined period after the sale happens. So you at least remove the real shitty rugs, right, that happen like immediately after. And I think like what it does is it kind of puts an emphasis on projects that are serious about building, and not just like I mean, you can do meme tokens like this too, but projects that are serious, that have like something like real they want to build, like the Auto Rujira guys or Nami or Boon, like they're able to build up that like kind of that relationship and that rapport with their future users before they do the sale, so that they can then show them, okay, like this is how the token fits in. Like I know you've chatted to JP and you've chatted to Ali. They're both like really committed to building cool products that sit on top of the Rujira app layer, where the token like really has a pretty important role in it. And that's the kind of builders that we're hoping to attract.
Okay. Yeah, I read there was an article yesterday, the Omniverse article. I can't remember the exact title of it, but they mentioned, eventually being able to have restaurants, not even necessarily just tokens in crypto, but if you wanted to launch a restaurant, you could do a fundraise and then like a DAO, set up a DAO, something like this that sort of owns the restaurant. Is that I mean, that's probably I would say somewhat a stretch out maybe until that happens. But is that something that could happen with this venture side of things?
Sure, I don't see why not. I mean, like, DAOs have their place, and everyone's got like criticisms or compliments about them, but effectively, what they are is like a group of people who want to be able to like they want to be able to make decisions based on how much skin in the game you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you can, like, in theory, you take that model and you can attach it to anything. I mean, there's a really successful DAO on Kujira called Manta DAO, and their whole thing was like about providing liquidity, and they work really well. They've got like a really active kind of core community. The dudes make decisions like together, and so you can see how the restaurant example, you could see how they could come along and go, okay, well, there's a core group of us who want to build this. We need more people involved in order to kind of like raise the capital to do it. We're going to put up a token that's going to be like the restaurant token, and it's going to underpin the thing that we're going to build. And, like having the token is how we steer the ship. Why not?
Yeah, I suppose just linking crypto to the real world, I think, is just you would still just have to, like, sometimes I get a little bit too much on the cypherpunk, no rules, no regulations, no laws kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, the DAO would have to be able to operate legally somewhere where they are allowed to own or take a lease for a building to open said restaurant. They're not just going to be able to permissionlessly open up a restaurant leasing a building from John down the street kind of thing out of the strip mall.
Yeah. So there's a ton of steps between here and there, right? But like we can kind of stand here, and without getting into the technical or the legal, we can look at what's possible, and we can go, okay, well, if you've got a large enough, I mean, if you can do Kickstarter, to launch a book or an album or a film or a restaurant, like, how cool is it if you can reach out and build a community that isn't restricted by your borders. It isn't restricted by where you are or how much you can contribute. Like, anyone anywhere can look at something and go, I believe in that and I want to be a part of it. And at the very least, they can hold the token and play a small part in it, or maybe a big one. Like, who knows how large you can go? I mean, there's a DAO that's like buying golf courses. Like,
I don't know.
That shit's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a golf DAO. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I suppose it just comes down to how friendly do they get on crypto, because, at least this is just my opinion, that middleman setup and making it cumbersome and making you have to jump through hoops and all this is there deliberately just to extract value from people. So I guess that's more of like a real world, like showing up to your city council meeting and being like, hey, I want this crypto DAO to be able to open up that restaurant over there. sort of change, yes.
And I think like when it's like value extraction, it sucks, right? Like, but when it's value addition, it's great. So like we talked about a little earlier, we were saying like, anyone can spin up a good story and rug someone, and it's like, do your own research and no financial advice and all that stuff. But like, how cool if you then have someone who comes along and puts their hand up and says, I'm going to do a shit ton of research on every single project that comes here, and I'm going to be very vocal about the ones that I think are good, and I'm going to be really transparent in how I break down and evaluate what it is. And other people can then go, wow, we really like your analysis. Like, we'd like to kind of clump together and act as like an investment vehicle together. Like, that's a DAO in some ways, you know? And then you can go, okay, well, like, we're going to trust you until you prove to be untrustworthy, and then we're going to revoke our trust when you take advantage of it. Like, then you have a middleman who can warn you against things and say like, this is a bad idea because X, Y, and Z. You don't like my opinion, go ahead and do it, but I'm voting no. It's a no from me, dog. And and that's good, because that, in theory, right, keeps people honest on both sides. It can be taken advantage of just like anything else, but like, when properly used, it's a benefit.
That's a good point.
And then, but I mean, we're just like kind of speculating on where things might go. But I think like, and then one of the things that we talked, I know when you interviewed Ali, he was talking about THORChain. THORChain is actually the genesis of the idea that became Pilot, because what we realized is that launch mechanisms where the token price is set in stone don't really have a lot of leeway, right? Like, everyone either gets it at that price or not. You either whether you think it's the right price or not, you still have to pay that in a launch. And then on the other side, you've got something like a Dutch auction where the price is all over the place, but everyone pays the same one, but you don't really have like the control of where it goes. Pilot kind of allows the launcher to say, I know what the bare minimum is that I need. Like I know what, after the fees, if I have this cash, I have enough to actually move forward, right? This is like the entry level point. And then on the other end of the scale, they can say, this is what I think, or somewhere in the middle, it should be like, this is what I think is fair value. And then they can have the ambitious kind of side where it's like, this is what I think, if I absolutely knock this out the park and everyone loves this is what I can raise. And it allows everyone who participates to choose which point along that spectrum they think is fair value. And then they can decide whether they want to pay more than what they think is fair value or less, depending on how the sale goes. So if you think like this one you're looking at now, right? The NAMI sale, the graph is all over because the sale's over. But if you didn't want to pay let's say the 92nd percentile there, you thought that was too much, you didn't have to. You just opted to bid lower. And if your bid hit, great. And if it doesn't, you're like, well, I didn't want to pay more, so that's okay.
I wonder if the psychology of this like kind of works in the project's favor a little bit as well. Just kind of gamified, I guess, because you're kind of speculating. But like you said, I guess it all just comes back to the market value you're willing to pay for it. If you think, like, for example, these people, someone paid $3,880 for a 24% discount when they could have been back here. And I think, so they might have just said, well, I think it's going to come up to this on the launch, so I'm willing to put my bid in. And I think these get locked after a certain point. I can't remember exactly, but
no, you can pull your bid right up until the very, very end. There's no locking in.
Okay.
Um,
These people would put in their
so
bid and go to work. And then they couldn't
yeah,
look back at it.
yeah, that's the safe zone, and they were way too safe. What we are looking at doing, it's a topic of conversation, but what we are looking at doing is when we initially envisaged how this would work, we didn't expect people to put up discounts that high. And the problem with that is, like, if you look at that graph, you can see how the bids are really clustered really tightly together, and the majority of them are in those two silos in the middle. That's because when you have discounts that large, the difference in price from one silo to another is astronomical. It's almost like 50% more or whatever. Like when you do the maths, it's suddenly like, hang on, if I go from there to there, if I move one over, it's an insane price difference. So when we built this, we kind of envisaged a much smaller number of discounts, like closer to like 25 or 30% discounts max, where you would end up with this graph that kind of peaks somewhere in the middle and tapers off on both ends, where the guys willing to pay a bit more to ensure that they got their tokens were descending towards the full price. And then the guys who were willing to be risky were the ones moving in the other direction. And what would naturally happen on a, if everyone's got the price right and the enthusiasm from the community is there, was that the lowest bids would build up until the entire sale was complete. And then bids would have to start moving to the left and paying incrementally more in order to make sure their bid got hit, because there's a limited number of tokens and that fills from the highest price to the lowest. So if your bid is too low, you're not going to hit. And if you're looking at something, you're like, wow, lots of people want this. There's a ton of money that's actually been bid that's not going to work. I really want this token. I'm willing to pay like a little bit more to ensure I get it, as opposed to like, I don't want to jump like 50% in price.
Yeah, that makes sense. I suppose that's what I was thinking by, like if you see these stack up, and then you just kind of, well, no, and you cancel, and then you move it over, and then I don't know. Yeah, I think this works out in the project's favor, which is great for them to raise on pilot. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
So it really, what's cool about it is it kind of works both ways, because the creator they have to make sure that their pricing is reasonable, right? Like they have to give fair value, because if they price it too high, everyone's just going to say like, screw that noise and not take part. So they have to provide fair value, which kind of also means that their top end, if they're going to hit it, has to be something reasonable. Like you can't go, oh, well, our protocol is going to launch with an FTV of 100 million or whatever. It's got to be something that's viable. People have to look at it and go, okay, that's a reasonable valuation for like that supply of tokens. Where the PvP thing comes in is that when the token lists, it lists at the average token price, basically. That's the starting point, right? Because of the way the sale revenue is paired with the token allocation for liquidity. So, people will immediately start bidding on Fin, but the starting point is kind of the average price. So the goal is to be below average, right? Someone has to be above average for there to be an average, and someone has to be below. So the PvP is like, can I get this token below the average price? So I've got that advantage when it lists, if I'm looking to flip it.
Right.
But how close do I want to dance to the edge of having my bid miss and getting nothing? So now you like, and what is everyone else going to do? So that's the fun part. And pilot sales are they're a lot of fun. They're engaging. You're trying to strategize, and you're trying to theorize, and you're trying to work out, if your game theory is better than the other guys, and where the price is going to end up, and which silos are going to get bought out, and if those guys move their bids from there up or down, what's going to happen? It's interesting.
Yeah. Does this create kind of a floor in a way too, where if you got it, if you're just trying to buy it and maybe hold it for a while and you're not trying to do the flip, but you bought it at this price, you're probably not going to turn around and sell it lower than that, like tomorrow.
No, why would you? Yeah, unless you were unless you were desperate just to get your cash back out and take a haircut, you absolutely wouldn't. And if you're a conservative guy like or girl, like those bids that are further up, and you're just like, I don't care what I get it at because I'm not planning on selling it for however long.
Right.
Then cool, you've locked yourself in and you're good, you know. But yeah, there's definitely going to be a kind of point where there's going to be a lot of people holding at that price where they're like, that's the floor.
Yeah. Cool. So the venture side of thing, this is like this is a step. This is like the TGE sort of end step of what you guys are building.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
So the way this works is when you set up your sale, you set up a bunch of stuff. It's pretty easy. It's going to be like a matter of a couple of minutes to set one up. But once the sale triggers, once you reach the end of the sale period and you've sold all the tokens, the next steps kind of happen automatically. Your liquidity will get seeded, the trading pair will get set up, and the tokens get distributed. So it all just kind of, and now your token's trading on Rujira, and you're A for away.
Sweet. Cool. I mean, it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to, I know, again, in the future, but I'm looking forward to following these launches and seeing what comes out of this. For sure. Yeah. Do you have any other things that you wanted to share that maybe I just didn't ask or anything like that?
Well, I think like the one thing is that these are like primitives, right? Like so they just kind of form this fundamental layer. I think there's going to be some really cool stuff potentially happening with what Auto Rujira are doing. I mean, maybe they build an agent for bidding, which could be really cool. Then we've got to go, okay, well, how do we make it fair for humans and AI to battle it out? You know, like it'll be interesting. I think that if we have like a healthy launch system, it's not just about the mechanisms that we're building. It's about how they integrate into a bigger picture, right? Like how teams are going to be able to find the niches and the gaps in the ecosystem that they want to build a product for that has a token. And where that would have been able to, where that gets to fit in is then you kind of start creating an environment where like business development is happening, you know, and you have people who are going to help their creators. For the most part, from our experience, like they need guidance on how to structure their tokenomics. They need guidance on maybe how the token fits into the bigger picture of what they're doing. They need help with community management and maybe branding and marketing. So this whole ecosystem kind of gets spun up, and all of that can come from the public, but it can also become like this kind of cottage industry that sits around it, and it definitely becomes builds a need for like something like TCU to step in and go, okay, well, these are the things that you need to know about launching a protocol. If you're a builder who's like, well, I don't know anything about like these other things, I just like building stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be quite an important integration, is the education aspect.
Yeah, no, great point. People can build products, but not everybody is specialized in every single thing it takes to make a successful product and launch right and all that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know anything about coding.
Me either. Although, you know, I feel like eventually, I've tried in the past, and I think eventually everyone's going to have to do it like a little bit, but
yeah,
I mean, we are. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I'm like dreading it, but I just need to like bite the bullet and do it. I don't know, but okay. Well, yeah. Do you have anything else to add? Where people do you want? anyone to go any particular spot, obviously follow Dozzin over on Twitter. Follow. Oh, so is this going to be the Twitter for the venture side of things? Are you guys spinning up something else?
No, this is so. If you want to follow what we're doing, just stick with the Rujira core team communications. Like we're I mean, there's so many voices, and like there's so many channels, and there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and we're just fully focused on building. Anything that we communicate is going to be done through them, through those channels, because I think we need to try and get everyone to kind of zone in on one big loud voice in the room, and we're trying not to add to the cacophony. I mean, I'm still there if you want to follow me, and I'll probably shit post here and there, but yeah, like we're like that's where the info is coming from. As for building other things, I mean, who knows, right? Like once this thing gets up and spinning, and the Rujira app layers in all its glory, there's going to be opportunities appearing all over the place, I think. So it's just going to be a matter of going, well, what's something that people need and want, and can we build it or not? And I think once we've got the venture vertical like solid, and we'll take it from there. But yeah, there's always ideas.
Is there? Can I ask the dreaded when question? Do you know?
I think on the roadmap, we want to get pilot out first. The auction model. It's so hard not to refer to it as pilot, but that's what it is, I guess. So that'll come first, and I think that's on the roadmap for March. We've got quite a few dependencies, because obviously we need to be able to create the token, create the sale, and then once the sale goes off, we need to be able to integrate with liquidity and the trading pair and everything. So we'll be kind of quite far down the line. We've got to wait for all that other stuff to happen first, and we want to make sure that's rock solid. But I think probably pilot first, hopefully in March, depending on how things go. Then FCFS and bonds will follow.
Cool. Everything's moving fast. I can't wait. It feels like, from talking to everybody, it feels like it's just going to be launch after launch after launch sort of thing. Just like a flow of everything happening on Rujira.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be, it's almost going to be like, we're going to have to like kind of pace things out so we don't step on each other's toes, right? It's going to, otherwise people are just going to miss the cool stuff, which would be tragic.
Terrible. It'd be terrible. I suppose it's a good problem to have to navigate, though, So
absolutely, yeah.
Right.
But like everyone plans for failure, but a lot of people don't plan for success.
Right. Totally true. Well, cool, Dozzin. I appreciate you coming on and having the chat. Hopefully we could do one of these again when some stuff starts to roll out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm around.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.
See ya.
Cheers.